Right, good morning everyone. I hope you've had a good holiday. This is a quick video just to help you with your assignment 3 observations. Now it's fairly simple. You need to make sure that you are thinking about some of the work that you've done previously in terms of reviewing the rules and regulations and the roles of the officials, and then also your own performance when you were making your coaching videos and coaching drills in assignment 2. Right, so what is it that we actually need you to do? Well, we're going to be looking at observations. I've attached a lot of information onto your Google Classroom that might help you with what they are and remember our lessons and what we've talked about. It's basically the review of the whole of the unit. But first of all, you're going to need to create a Word document. So open one of them up. Make sure you save it as Unit 2 Assignment 3, okay, because that will give you the information and the location for finding it later for marking. Next up, we're going to create a table, and that table is going to be looking at a checklist of your own performance. Now, first of all, you need to create this table, so think about what it's going to be. Now, I'm going to come on to that in a minute, but the checklist is of the 2 sports that you've been doing throughout the rest of the unit. So think of what you've been observed in. It can be on any sport, but think about the sports that you've got the most knowledge on. How would you know if somebody's good or bad? After your table, you've then got to go to here. Writing a summary. So this is going to get you creating a table, your level 2 pass. Writing the summary is going to get you your merits. Okay, I'm going to explain what's going on with those strengths and weaknesses and give some short brief examples in a moment, but you will need to think about how you are going to use your own personal performance to give those summaries of the strengths and weaknesses. Now, the final thing is going to be basically analysing. One of our keywords there is going to be earning you a distinction. Now, if we think about this is where we need the high level analysis and information about why you've made the decisions about something being a strength or weakness. You can make these as detailed as possible so that you get every single mark. Go into every single reason. Is there a reason why you felt this? How do you know that your passing in football is poor? Well, I did a study and I saw that out of 10 passes, I only made 2 passes to an actual player. This is going to help prove and evidence what you've talked about in your merit stage summary. So on to the actual assignment itself. You'll see it in the normal format, so you'll see your assessor here, which will be myself, the day it was issued, and your deadline, and then obviously you'll need to put your name, etc., etc. in it. You can have 4 hours to do this. Now, I'm actually just going to say, pause this video and have a little read of what's written here. You don't need me to go through that in any specific detail, but what I will say is that I would like you to have a quick look at some of these things here. You've got to choose 2 sports. So 2 observation checklists that you regularly play. Think about it, as I've said in the previous slide. What are the ones that you've got the most knowledge about? What is it that you have got the greatest understanding about, so that you can make an accurate observation on what you've talked, what you're going to be doing in the whole assignment. You've got to have a clear format which is easy to use. What's the grading system? So you have to rate yourself. Are you a beginner, intermediate, advanced, or a simple 1 to 10? I suggest that the second one is the easiest one to use because it gives a very a wide enough range from a beginner to an intermediate, but also not so big that you get lost in numbers, and therefore the data that you produce can be therefore a little bit worthless. The next section here talks about what it is that you need to write in order to get a merit or a distinction. So after you've written your observation checklist, you've got to write this little a paragraph here, a report almost, about what your strengths and weaknesses are and why you've chosen those things. This becomes really evident further along we go, and if you look at these here, okay, P6, P7, and then M3 and D2, it gives a really clear analysis of what it is that you need to do. Independently produce an observation checklist, review your own performance in 2 selected sports, explain strengths and areas for improvement, analyse strengths and areas for improvement. So we've got a really clear idea about what it is the assessor is looking for. Can I draw your attention to this here though? Again, you need to make sure that your observation checklists are for 2 sports. You're talking about your strengths and areas of improvement and what it is that you need to do. Final page of the assignment brief also looks at some of the information where you can get some of the website links, so that you might want to use them and have a little look at gain additional information so that you can give those reasons that we talked about within your merit and distinction work. So what is your observation checklist going to look like? Well, here we go. I've come up with a really quick example. Now you've got to create this yourself, otherwise you don't get the level 2 pass that you all want to get. Can I again remind you, you've got to do this for 2 sports. There we go. So really simply, what we're looking for is now moving on, it's not just the skills we need to look at, it's the tactics. So tactics here, let's have a little look, think here. My zone defense. Okay, I'm pretty good at it again, so I'm giving myself an 8. Okay, you can be as modest as you like. Just remember that you need to be accurate in what you are writing, and you know that honesty will obviously help you. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are, as long as you are writing the right bits of information. So zone defense, I understand the concept and stand in the right position. I'm then going to write something about my attacking ability. So I've got an ability to beat defenders. Not so good at this though, it's a 4, okay? I'm slow to react to situations. But, you know, that will be something that maybe I'll focus on in my strength and weakness analysis later on. Now, you don't have to solely concentrate on skills and tactics. Think of some of the components of fitness. You might also want to have a little look at some of the mental capabilities. And then also understanding of rules. There's no point being really good but then not understanding some of the basics of the rules that are in front of us for the sport that you are playing. So bear all those in mind when you're thinking about what you're going to be writing about and putting in your observation checklist. Look at the textbook for some other examples, but it's got to be your own decisions. Now make a simple table, like I say, in a Google Doc. It should be very easy then to fill in all the information that you need. Like I say, there should be 6 or 7 in each section. Remember, the more detailed, the better it will be. Now, after you've written your table, you need to write this summary. Now, the summary is looking at a strength and weakness from each of the sports that you've chosen. So that, again, that's your 2 sports. Can't write, sorry, it's gone all funny on my iPad. Now, you have to explain why these have been a strength for you in these sports. So let's say, for example, we're looking at my shooting again. So my shooting has been a strength because I've given an example. I've shot all my shots on target. You then need to give a justification for that, i.e., by having power, I'm able to beat the goalkeeper, as the ball will be travelling so fast that they won't be able to react in time to stop it. You could then expand it into your own knowledge about the components of fitness and how that might work, what you need to get that extra power, why you might actually develop it, and what other skills and components of fitness you might use. You can then, in your analysis, start talking about what you're going to do. So you might talk about a training program and using some of the fitness tests that you talked about in Unit 1. Now, that will also help in terms of you creating some of the ideas about how you're going to improve some of those areas of weakness. So again, I mentioned training programs. You may go on a NGB course to help you with getting better at everything that you have talked about in your previous section. You may also start looking at changing tactics. So you might decide that you're going to watch some YouTube videos. But then finally, you might also start thinking about your own knowledge, okay, and how that is going to help you get better and what training you might do in order to prove it. So finally, just a quick recap of what we need to do. Make sure you get your Word document. Create the table. Look for examples from the internet and in textbooks and other people. There should be some guidance for you if you look at it. It's all about your research. Summary, strengths and weaknesses. Okay, remember that's really important about what you're going to be looking at in terms of why you've how you've made those decisions about what is a strength, and you've identified what it is. Then number 4 is the one where you've really put the meat on the bones. Why did you choose that as your strength? Why did you choose that as your weakness? What evidence have you got to actually make that actual judgment? And then justify about what you're going to talk about, how you're going to make improvements further along down the line. How are you going to get better at passing or dribbling or whatever it might be that you've identified. Hope this helps. I'll see you soon.